Welcome to The Explainer, where we break down big ideas using the source material itself. Today, we're going to do something kind of wild. We're going to draw a straight line from a 250-year-old opera all the way to how you experience the latest blockbuster movie. And believe it or not, it all kicks off with one single powerful observation.
So this quote from the composer Hector Berlioz, it's not just him being nice. It actually captures this huge shift in how we hear stories through music. I'm talking about the moment the orchestra stopped being just a backup band and started becoming a storyteller in its own right. And to understand that, we have to go back to a noisy Berlin cafe in 1809.
All right, so we're diving into this really strange, almost trippy story from the writer E.T.A. Hoffmann. And this guy was, obsessed with the power of music. Okay, so Hoffmann really paints a picture here. I want you to imagine you're the narrator. You're just trying to have a coffee, right? But you're being tortured by this awful quintet. He describes it as an out-of-tune harp, a pair of untuned violins, and, this is my favorite part, a practical joking bassoonist. A practical joking bassoonist. They're just destroying this poor waltz. It's a nightmare.
But then, this mysterious stranger leans over. He can tell our narrator is suffering, that he's a fellow music lover, and he somehow talks this motley crew of musicians into trying something else. He says, "Hey, play the overture by Christoph Willibald Gluck." They give it a shot, and as they do, something really, really weird starts to happen to the stranger. He just closes his eyes and starts conducting an orchestra that isn't there. He's got sweat beading on his forehead. See, he isn't just listening to these 5 bad musicians. No, he is hearing a massive, magnificent performance that is completely in his head. And the craziest part? Our narrator gets sucked right into this hallucination along with him.
All of a sudden, the narrator starts hearing things. He hears instruments that are not in the room. He hears the soft, melting lament of a flute, the thunder of timpani, the deep pulse of a cello. He's hearing a full, crushing orchestra where there should just be that sad little quintet. I love how Hoffmann puts it. The stranger was giving the skeleton of the music flesh and color.
So this is the big question, right? What was this guy actually hearing? And how could it be so powerful that it could be conjured up from such a terrible performance? Well, to figure that out, we have to rewind the clock about 50 years, to a moment that truly changed everything in opera. Okay, so here we are, mid-18th century, and the main type of opera at the time, this thing called opera seria, well, it was kind of in a rut. It had gotten really complicated and was mostly just about singers showing off how fancy they could be. And you can really see the difference here. On one side, you've got opera seria. We're talking crazy, complicated plots and music that was all about vocal gymnastics. The story, that was kind of an afterthought. But then you have Gluck's reform. He wanted to just get rid of all that fluff. He said, let's focus on noble simplicity, on dramatic truth. He wanted to hit you right in the gut with emotion. And his big manifesto for this was his 1762 opera, Orfeo and Eurydice. This thing was like a declaration of war on the old style. No more tangled subplots, no more show-offy singing, just pure, direct, powerful emotion. And the secret weapon he used to do it? You guessed it, the orchestra. Right, so this is where the magic really happens. Gluck gave the orchestra a completely new job description, and it was pretty radical. So the instruments were no longer just accompaniment. They weren't just backing up the singers, they were providing what we'd call a musical subtext. The orchestra itself basically became another character in the story. It was like this sonic narrator telling you, the audience, what to feel, often whispering secrets and emotions the characters on stage couldn't or wouldn't say out loud. And this brings us right back to our guy in the cafe. See? He wasn't just hearing the notes that the crummy quintet was playing. He was hearing that whole other layer, the subtext, the feeling, the entire emotional world that Gluck had literally woven into the orchestration. Now, back then, audiences actually had to learn this new way of listening, this orchestral listening. It's a skill that today we just take for granted.
You know, today, music experts have a word for what Gluck was getting so good at, for that flesh and color that Hoffmann described. The word is timbre.
And it's pronounced timbre. Put simply, timbre is the quality of a sound. It's what makes a flute sound like a flute and not a violin, even if they're playing the exact same note at the exact same loudness. You could call it the color or the character of a sound.
But here's the funny thing about timbre. As the scholar Emily Dolan notes, even though it's absolutely crucial to how we experience music, It's super hard for people to study and talk about. I mean, look at this list of problems. It's understudied, it's hard to define, we don't really have a good vocabulary for it, there's no single theory for it, it's just a mess, academically speaking.
But, and this is the key, that messiness is exactly where its power comes from. The very fact that timbre doesn't follow a neat set of rules is what makes it so emotionally powerful. It lets composers communicate these really complex, subtle feelings that you just can't get across with words or even with melody and harmony alone.
So, let's bring it all home. What does all this stuff, an 18th century opera reform, a weird academic concept, have to do with you watching a movie tonight? The answer is absolutely everything.
You can draw a straight line. First, Gluck teaches the orchestra how to create this emotional subtext. Then, about 100 years later, a guy named Wagner just takes that idea and goes wild with it, making the orchestra the main storyteller. And from there, it is a direct jump to the movie scores we all know and love. Think John Williams, Hans Zimmer, the whole lot of them.
You know that feeling you get when the strings swell up in a love scene, or you hear those deep, grumbling brass instruments when the bad guy shows up? That's it. That's you, instinctively understanding this secret language of the orchestra. It's a language that Gluck's audiences literally had to learn from scratch, but for us, it's just been passed down. It's in our cultural DNA now. So I want to leave you with this. The next time you watch a movie, try something. Just for a minute, close your eyes and just listen. What is the orchestra telling you that the dialogue isn't? What story is being told just by the color of the instruments? That ability you have to hear the story inside the sound itself, well, that's Gluck's legacy. It's pretty incredible when you think about it.